if you don't have a musical bone in your body, you can still create a soundscape that is tailored.
Yeah, this is going to make it very difficult to get a sponsorship for a music licensing site, but we strongly believe that you should be making your own music for your films and not just using stock music.
Zach, I have a question for you now that we're rolling.
Yeah, shoot.
If you're a filmmaker, does the hat belong forwards or backwards?
It's forward for sure.
Is it forwards?
It's forward for me, yeah.
It's backwards if you're a cool kid, though.
So okay. It's so funny. I showed up to our shoot Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah.
With my hat backwards because it's kind of normally how it is because I am one of these cool kids.
Yeah, he skateboards places.
And then when we started recording behind the scenes videos, I was like, I turned it forward because I'm like, that's more of a filmmaker thing.
Professionalism?
No, it's not. So I don't care about professionalism.
You heard it here first, folks.
Hey, I make no apologies. We tried to take our own advice on Wednesday and make a quick and dirty film.
And it sucked.
You know, it might be salvageable. We'll see. But, just goes to show you that not everyone's a winner. And,
We've been saying make bad art.
Yeah, that is true. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Once again, I'm your host, Zachary Koch.
And I'm your co-host, Matteo Guthrie. And this is
the Your Next Film podcast.
Podcast devoted to helping you make films by talking about us making films. Well, this week, we are talking about why you should score your own film.
Yeah, specifically, if you don't know what score means, it's the music. It's amateur. Speaking of professionalism, our topic for today is why you should score your own films. This is going to make it very difficult to get a sponsorship for a music licensing site, for example, Artlist, Soundstripe, Epidemic Sound, but we strongly believe that you should be making your own music for your films and not just using stock music.
There's nothing wrong with grabbing licenses for films.
Oh yeah, nothing wrong with that.
I mean, obviously, some of the best films, for example, Pulp Fiction, right? Fantastic soundtrack.
Okay, that's a little different than stock music.
Yeah, no.
Two different categories.
So you're licensing music.
I see.
You can license music from local artists, from bands you like. But usually those people want to be paid because they put work in to make that art, and they deserve to be paid for their work. And often as an indie filmmaker, you just don't have the budget for that. You're making a short film that you're posting on YouTube. This is not something that has a budget beyond pizza
or pasta.
Or pasta. I've done pasta. Come work on my film sets and you'll get pasta.
Yeah, we actually cook. It's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And by we, I mean you.
But point being, there's nothing wrong with going the stock music route. There's nothing wrong with finding an artist. There's nothing wrong with even paying way too much money to some, Universal Music Group to pull a very popular song and put that in your film. Whatever really works for your film, frankly. But again, if you have the one box of pasta and, ingredients for sauce, or the several boxes of pizza and that you can make rent the next month budget, often that's not really viable for your film.
Right. And historically, the answer to that has been music licensing sites, where for a low cost, you can get unlimited downloads. And the music is pretty decent a lot of the times. A lot of our films were made using music from music licensing sites.
I'm not going to complain about that. And especially for films that you're having to deal with all the you don't have a legal department. You're having to deal with the headache of, you'll go into Internet Archive and you'll find something that's public domain, and you're like, well, is this public domain for how public domain is it? Where's the license end? Is this something I can just use? Is this something that's just free for personal use? And sometimes that's just a headache that you don't want to deal with, which is where scoring your own film comes in.
Quick note, we just kind of want to let you know that there's other options out there than music licensing sites and public domain music, which both of which I'm in love with, specifically the public domain music. I think that's great as well. But the other option that people don't really consider is just making your own music, even if you're not a musician.
Yeah.
And neither of us are musicians, but we've made music for films. And we've been able to get by, and it's actually really good.
And it's something that I really like the direction we're moving on.
Yeah, me too.
I did a few years of choir, basically all through college and through most of high school. I was in choir. Before that, I took a little bit of piano. So I have some training, but you don't need necessarily training.
Right. I have music friends that,
there's music
teach me
friends
stuff.
that teach you things. You've made some really solid work. I've also made some pretty decent work that has fit the tone.
December Suntan.
Yeah, December Suntan.
Is it on SoundCloud?
On SoundCloud, yeah.
Nice.
Every
I need to
now
start
and then I'll throw
posting on
something up.
SoundCloud.
It's you have like a hard limit of stuff you can put on there, but if you like put
That's
it as
fine.
if you just upload it as MP3s, like it's nothing.
Yeah.
You can put a bunch of stuff on there. That aside, kind of my first point in this, in pitching scoring your own film to you is the fact that you can really tailor it to your film.
Mhm.
And there have been times where I just, for whatever reason, could not put together a song. I was just like, I can't put together a song. But putting together a soundscape, like something really ambient, especially for sort of horror oriented.
Yeah.
Sometimes not even horror oriented. Sometimes it's just like very moody.
Yeah, just
stuff.
atmosphere.
Yeah,
just drones and things like that.
Drones, a little synth sting. One time I put together an entire track that was just like jingling change around and like tapping things on my
Very Pink
desk.
Floyd of you.
Yeah, very Pink Floyd. But I threw it into Audacity, right? So just the lowest of the low, like free softwares. Everybody has it.
I'm not quite that scrappy. I use Logic.
We can't all be bougie. But if you download something like Audacity, which is free, and you're just playing around with that, it has like really solid signal processing.
Yeah.
Tools.
I'm sure you can EQ, add
like
reverb.
EQ, you can just mess with waveforms, you can shape things, you can throw a bunch of reverb on it, you can pulse stretch it, and it's unrecognizable as just jingling change or tapping a glass with a spoon, but it can put out some really interesting sounds.
Yeah, almost any DAW will do that.
Yeah.
Do the basics that you need.
I use GarageBand, which comes free with every Mac, right? It's just on there. I think I have it on my phone.
Push you towards that if you're on a Mac, yeah.
Yeah. If you have a Mac, GarageBand is right there. And it comes with pre-programmed drums. It comes with pre-programmed synth sounds that you can then just play with the keyboard. You don't have to, you can, like on a dead, like stock iPad, nothing plugged into it, you can put together an entire song.
Yeah, an iPad is not a bad tool. I would hardly consider that a compromise either.
Yeah, but like, everybody's like little cousin has just an iPad that they play on and then they get rid of it whenever they need something. You can take that, you can put together a song, and then like that is a perfectly respectable budget.
Yeah.
Budget
option,
setup. Budget option.
So for me, this is my little music journey as of recently, because I know for a lot of people, especially if you're a filmmaker, like it can be very intimidating to make your own music. And like, this is speaking to a very specific group of people, because I know a lot of people are, multi-talented, there's a lot of filmmakers that are also musicians and what have you. But if you're a filmmaker or a videographer that makes video projects and you need music for them, and the idea of making your own music seems daunting, it's actually not as hard as you think. And for my little short journey, I started making like electronic music as of like, a few months ago, 6 months ago or so. And it all started because I was in the market for an audio interface. So I bought this, Arturia audio interface, which has been doing well. But I was looking at their other products and they make all these like MIDI controllers and stuff. And I'm like, I don't make music, but that MIDI controller just looks really cool. And it was like $100. And so, at some point I was like, I should buy a MIDI controller and learn how to like play stuff on it, learn keys and stuff. And so I bought this MIDI controller and kind of just played around with it for like a couple of weeks, but eventually got Logic, and I played with some other DAWs too, but Logic was the one that I liked the most just because I'm kind of an Apple fanboy and I like the interface and it was very clean and simple. But yeah, I just started messing around with the sounds and, put the metronome on and try to play in time. And I have a friend who's extremely talented and has given me a lot of pointers. And so, and especially with like scores for films too, they're a lot less complicated, kind of like what you were saying.
No, you don't want the song to stand out usually.
Yeah, usually. And
you
it's
want it to
very
fit the
easy.
tone and to guide the viewer through whatever film they're watching.
Absolutely. Unless you're like Tarantino, and then maybe the song does become kind of like a feature of the scene.
Well, that is for a definite higher budget.
Yeah, an auteur as well.
Yeah, and it's for an auteur.
But like I was saying, it's not super complicated to make scores for films. And funny enough, a lot of the music I was looking for on these music licensing sites for my films and for my videos and for our films as well, I was always looking for something very minimal, very simple. Something that didn't stand out a lot. And a lot of the music on these stock licensing websites were slightly more complicated than I was going for. And it goes, you already mentioned this point, but it's hard to have a song that's tailor fit for your project.
Yeah.
Because it's not tailored for your project. It's meant to be broadly applicable, broadly useful. And so that's where making your own music comes in, because you can make something that fits the exact tone of your project. And a lot of times it's easier to just make a simple soundtrack than it is to find a simple song, because a lot of the times they're more complicated than they need to be.
Yeah, does it have the exact sort of fuzz you want for that like moment? Is it too distorted? Is it too synthy for the tone? Like, just make it yourself. I have an antique electric organ.
It's so cool.
It's like a 3-tier, and I got it for free off Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, really?
I got it out of some guy's garage, and I stuck it in the back of my mom's Honda Odyssey. Somehow got it back to the house, and I use that. I use a theremin, which is a really fun instrument, but I use that to like make cool like squeaks and squeals, and like you can just find things that are unconventional. I've recorded things off of the iPhone earbud mic.
Oh yeah.
And then
you've sampled things with that.
I've sampled that. I've recorded just like actual instruments with that, and then ported them over, messed with it.
Sick.
Like, it's so much easier and less expensive than paying lots of money to license some song.
Or to have an original score.
Yeah, or to have an original score, because...
Which frankly is ideal.
Yeah,
but
it's ideal.
This is the next best thing. You know, it's really in between original score and music licensing.
Yeah, because, you know, going on YouTube Music and picking out, you know, whatever, like maybe 3 songs that kind of sound like what you want your project to sound like is not ideal, and often it makes your film seem a little bland.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the score won't be memorable.
Second point, why you should absolutely score your own films. As a filmmaker who has spent a lot of time on Artlist, Soundstripe, Epidemic Sound, all these sites, you know, I've tried them all. You start to get very familiar with their music library, and like they're updating it, right? But the popular songs get used a lot, and it's so funny. Like, I watch YouTube videos all the time, probably too much. And I'm like, oh, I know what song that is.
Yeah.
I could find that on Artlist. I know exactly what song they use. I know what song this person used. And it takes the originality kind of out of the video. Whereas if you had like The House That Eats has an original soundtrack. Frankly, so does God Love Robots, although there isn't too much music in that film. And you're not allowed to use that music. Although
that's us.
I mean, if you ask nicely.
Yeah, if you ask nicely, like,
but
sure.
like,
but
you know, that doesn't exist out there. You know, no one's using those songs because we made them, and that's so cool to me. It gives your film a unique identity, and I really appreciate
you
that.
have the power to add the feel you want.
Yeah,
and again,
and that goes back to your first point of it just being it fitting the project perfectly.
If you are not a musician, if you don't have a musical bone in your body, you can still create a soundscape that is tailored.
Yeah,
and you can mess with that, and you can tweak it. And again, it's a learning journey. It's
for sure.
I'm by no means like an expert at scoring my own films.
Yeah, but at the same time,
I do it a lot.
Success with it.
We've had instances where Zack will send me some stock music that is perfectly fine, and I'm like, oh, that's great. And then I will send him whatever I've been working on, and Zack's like, oh, you know what? We'll use this, or we'll use a portion from this for the scene because this fits better than anything that could be written for it. It gives you a degree of control, maybe an auteur's degree of control that nothing else really will give you.
Yeah, we joke a lot about being an auteur, you know, and are we auteurs? Who knows? Is auteur something to even strive towards? Which, you know, yes and no.
Is auteur bad?
Is auteur, hey, that's a podcast topic.
There we go.
But, you know, the defining characteristic of an auteur is that, well, not to be pedantic, but, you know, they're the author of their project. You know, they have their fingerprints all over it. But furthermore, they require a certain degree of control over the elements of their project. And for us, their film project. And so having control over the exact tone that you're setting with your music is very, very important if you appreciate being an artist and having your fingerprints over every aspect of the project.
And furthermore, I feel, you know, you've shot this film. You've most likely written this film. You've probably edited and color graded it. Obviously, there's, you know, you can have a team. But isn't it better to have almost the full film all put together under your vision as a filmmaker, whatever part of the puzzle you may fit into? It does feel a little better than just, oh, let me throw this pre-made one in that like it was
it's
the
almost
best
an
option
afterthought.
I had. Yeah, it feels like almost an afterthought. And for a lot of the films I see at festivals, it kind of is. And that's, if you're doing a documentary or whatnot, it's fine. You know, you just need the strings to swell when you need the strings to swell, and, you know, somebody to shed a tear. I do notice when the score feels a little more tailor-made. It feels a little more original.
Yeah. Hopefully, so far you have a little bit more confidence. I hope we're inspiring you to go out and do this, because it really is a lot simpler than you might think. If you have a computer that can run, video editing software, which I'm sure you have at this point, or or at least have a workflow that you're familiar with, but it's not all that much more complicated to download a DAW, whether it's Audacity, whether you're using GarageBand. Both of those are free, by the way. Or if you're upgrading to something more premium like Logic or Ableton or what have you. I mean, there's tons of options out there that people like, FL Studio, but it's not too much trouble to download one of these and just start playing around, especially with
remember Pro Tools?
Yes, I do. That was the Avid one, right?
Yeah.
It was Pro Tools, and
I used like a version from like 2006 in college. It was insane.
Really? Was it good? Did you like using it?
No, it was bad. It was very bad.
That's what people say about Avid too. It was like industry standard, but people just found it to be really rigid, especially compared to like Premiere and stuff.
In school, it was like, it got to the point in the class, because we only had like this one copy on the school computer, so you had to sign in for slots on the school computer, and nobody else had the idea of actually like signing up early. And so everybody was fighting for like the last like week maybe of recording time in that studio, to the point that people would record on, Audition or wherever, and then just port those files into Pro Tools so that they could use the computer, and like the marks would be there for the professor. It was a very funny time.
Interesting.
If I hear a bad soundtrack and it's just some stock music that's just like, it doesn't really fit the film, whatever, I'm like, oh well, they clearly use the stock music, and it's fine. It's whatever. It's unremarkable. But if I hear a soundtrack and it's not Hans Zimmer, right? I respect the film more for having something custom made, something tailor made.
You respect the effort.
Yeah, I respect the effort. It's just feels like they're trying, and I appreciate that. Even if, maybe it's not good. Maybe it's just the worst song I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But I respect their artistic process.
So
there.
I agree with you. And on the flip side of that, because you run into the exact same problem in the other way as well. A lot of our films, let's just be completely honest, they're not Christopher Nolan films.
Yet.
If Hans Zimmer actually scored one of our micro shorts, that would be very cool, but it wouldn't make our micro shorts better. In fact, it would probably take away from them.
No, yeah.
Because on one hand, you have this highly produced track that's amazing, and then our little measly micro
this is a really
show,
terrible music video at that point.
Yeah, it's like the production value does not match the production value of the music, and that's the case with a lot of music licensing too. You get this really nice orchestral piece, it sounds really cool, but then you're filming a quick and dirty film, which you should be doing, and
it feels out of place.
Yeah, like I remember being a kid and making films in my backyard and putting this epic fantasy music in there, and it clashed hard, because clearly we're fighting with foam swords. You can see the fence in the background. You can see the neighbors' roofs in the background. This is
a suburb.
Literally in a suburb. Fantasy music was too epic. Too epic to the point where it was
totally
funny.
Dissonant.
It was funny because it's like this serious moment, and we're trying to be serious, and we're just hitting each other with foam weapons while wearing skinny jeans. To me. It clashed. And when we started making music for our own films, they matched tonally, because we had this scrappy film and we had this scrappy soundtrack. And so even if it wasn't like amazing, that's kind of the point. It needs to be at the same level as your project. And I find that making your own music, even if it's not as well produced, that actually can be to its benefit.
And furthermore, if you specifically, you as the director, you as the producer, wherever you are in the film, if you just can't do that, if you can find somebody who is musically talented that would want to do that, either for whatever fee or just because they're on the project as well, you're still putting out art that's got genuine effort in it.
Yes.
And I respect that.
And I didn't mean to imply that, if your film sucks, then you should have music that sucks as well. Removing talent from the equation. It's just about having, you have a thrown together film, or maybe you planned it a little bit, and then, a custom music track isn't going to be as overly polished as this stock track. That's just, it's polished to the point where it's like, it doesn't have anything interesting.
It's clearly a blockbuster style imitation, I guess. A blockbuster imitation. Moral of the story, you should score your own film, be it hiring somebody to do so for whatever rate they charge, or just doing it your very own self.
Do it yourself.
Yeah, do it yourself. It provides another look at this segment of the filmmaking process that a lot of people just don't do because they're a visual filmmaker, or maybe they write, or maybe they're only behind the camera. Maybe they're the sound guy, but they're not that sort of sound guy. And being able to see this other facet of the filmmaking process will only make you better at making movies.
For sure.
I mean, I guess you could say I just wasted a bunch of time and made nothing of any import, but you're still learning from that.
Yeah, no, and also, pushing yourself to do new creative things, I think, is what keeps your art fresh. If all you ever do is make films, like, that's cool and all. But like getting your toes wet in like another genre of creativity can give you new perspective on your primary artistic endeavor, which is probably making films. So do it. Do it yourself. I'm pushing you to do it yourself.
Do it quick and dirty. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking. It's something that will make you a better filmmaker.
Well said.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
I'm staking Zach's life on it.
Now you know he's serious.
I inherit your cameras, right?
You would, but do you know how to use them?
Yeah.
If this setup was shut down, how many power buttons do you need?
There's like 3 of them.
Final answer?
Don't make me pick this. So,
you said like 3 of them.
Yeah.
I need an actual number.
4.5.
That has to be a whole number.
4?
Is 4? Is that what you're going with?
Hold on. The camera has like 2.
2 power buttons on the camera?
Yeah, doesn't it? Doesn't it have the standby?
Oh,
yeah. Are you counting the standby switch?
No, I'm not counting the standby switch.
Okay.
That would be 1.
Okay, so 1 for the camera.
Yeah.
At least 3 for the mic setup.
Mm.
Oh no, so I'll say 5.
5.
Yeah.
It's actually 3. 1 for the monitor, 1 for the camera, 1 for the battery that powers it all. The mics don't have power buttons. They just turn on when you take them out.
I realized that's the Rode symbol and not a power button this entire time.
You thought this was a big power button?
No, the little one on the underside. It has the Rode symbol on it.
You're right. Don't press that because it'll mute it.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, I don't know what he's saying over there because he's muted.
At any rate, now that we've talked about scoring your film, if you want to learn more about what to do with your film once you've scored it, we have an entire episode about distributing to physical media.
Yeah, link to that episode will be in the description. And with that out of the way, thank you so much for watching. If you like this podcast, you like what we've been doing here, feel free to like and subscribe.
We appreciate it.
And I've been Zach, as always.
And I've been Matteo.
And this has been
Your Next Film. Go make a movie.
Right now.
Do it.
I don't care if you're at work.
Go.
I don't care if you're watching this on the toilet.
If you have a child, drop the child. Make a movie.